This message is brought to you by Apple Pay. Forget your wallet? It's all good because with Apple Pay, you can pay with a simple tap of your iPhone, the wallet you never forget, at millions of places worldwide, including websites, apps, and anywhere you see the contactless symbol. Security is built in with Face ID, so you don't have to worry about your cards getting lost or stolen. And the best part, you still earn the card rewards, points, and cash back you love. So say goodbye to the billfold, add your card to Apple Wallet, and start paying the Apple way. Terms apply.
I need support staff to clear the room.
Stand up and walk, now.
Hello, and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me in the studio, watching the detectives, it's Andy Greenwald!
Nice intro.
Do you like Elvis Costello?
Of course, I'm an American of a certain age.
I just, it's one of those guys that you and I never really talked about. Before we talk about anything, let me just mention that you can email us at
Start listing your imperial bedrooms. Like, that would be such a wild
Top 100 Elvis Costello songs. Actually, would be a good pod.
You could do it.
Well, The Watch at Spotify.com
Right.
is the inbox. Ringer-TV is the YouTube channel you can watch us on. You can also watch us on Spotify, where you're hopefully listening to us. And you can follow us on Instagram at TheWatchPod_. Shockingly, our political debate from Monday during the Mountain Head Pod did not make it into a social clip.
I did notice that. Interesting.
Is this what they mean by silencing?
We poured gasoline everywhere for you guys. You didn't choose to light it.
It's great to see you, man. I feel like Monday we did the Mountain Head Pod. I'm sure we talked about other things. I just don't really remember. And then
Because the spirit of Karl Marx took over your body? What do you mean?
I was more like new rule guy. I feel like
You were.
I had like just like a couple of random things for you.
I have one random thing for you, too. It doesn't have to be first.
You go first. You bet lead off.
Okay, maybe it's a nice bridge idea from our political talk of last week.
Sure.
To
Monday, yeah.
Is
48 hours
my
ago.
microphone still working?
Yeah, we're recording this on Wednesday, by
Am
the
I
way,
getting shut down?
in case anything happens.
Okay, so as you know, Chris, because you follow him closely on X, Elon Musk has come out against the Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, he did. He called it an abomination.
Which, stop
And I don't follow him on
stop
X.
clocks, right? Twice a day.
Yeah.
I did want to get your thoughts on this. Just purely, remember we used to do a bit? Remember we always say we did bits and we never do them?
Uh-huh.
But there was this idea that I liked where you were the Hollywood fixer.
Oh, yeah.
Where I would give you an issue, a problem facing the industry, and you would just seat of the pants, just real talk. You'd fix it.
It's so funny you mentioned this because I have a question about
Oh,
this.
good. Often, I thought you would do it. This is the first time we've talked about it since I wear glasses, but Joe Nocera style from the New York Times. You take it off and you just think about it.
Yeah, just like.
So, so Hollywood Fixer. There is a film coming out this fall that is hotly tipped, whatever that means anymore. Sean could tell us more. It is potentially an awards contender. It is based on a Blacklist script. It stars big movie star Margot Robbie and our favorite actor Colin Farrell. This movie is called A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. Kogonada directed it. What are the conversations like inside of Sony right now? Because I swear to God, I have mixed up the names of this government-wrecking, budget-wrecking bill and this
the Big Beautiful Bill.
Eternal Sunshine, but in Scooby-Doo's Mystery Machine movie that's coming out this fall.
Yeah.
Do you think, what are the conversations like of do we have to change the name of A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey?
Well, because it's too late. The trailer's out.
It's too late, right?
Although,
they have to own it.
How do you feel about this? Are we too precious about titles? Because remember when Edge of Tomorrow was also Live, Die, Repeat?
And that's a better name. Yes.
I disagree.
Well, there were other names too, right? What were all the names of that? Go on. Explain. Do your bit.
Well, my bit is that, why don't we have dynamic movie titling? Where when you're getting up to a point and it's like, has this title been corrupted? Or are people like, what the fuck is A Big, Magical, Beautiful Journey?
Yes.
Or whatever this movie is called. And no disrespect to Kogonada, who I really...
Yes, these are talented people.
Work. I forgot about it and I haven't looked at the words. Sure. And also, this is a very specific thing where I always mix up long titles like this. I don't even think I know really what the Kanye record still is called. Is it My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy?
You got it right. Just in time to pledge your allegiance on X.com to your favorite rapper.
What if I only followed two people?
I'd have some questions. So, first of all,
But why can't we change? Like they've like it was ballerina.
Right?
Now it's ballerina, like a John Wick.
No, this
thing.
stuff, especially since everything has become colonized, which sounds awesome. So Live, Die, Repeat was the poster.
That's in the Big Beautiful Bill. We all get colonized.
That's the big beautiful journey that the scope takes. So it's Edge of Tomorrow, but it was based on a book called All You Need Is Kill.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So there were 3 potential titles for that. I think that we actually are in an era of dynamic titling, but we don't even realize it. Case in point, Thunderbolts * was rebranded as New Avengers.
Was it? They actually put that on the poster?
They put the posters up.
Oh, and then they answered the asterisks.
They answered but then they didn't actually change the marquees in like the official name of the movie. But I don't see why we can't do this because the formulation of these things is so hidebound and also it's not really responsive. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we were talking about this recently. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is the direct sequel to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
But then they dropped the Part 1.
Did they?
I think in future publication of the title on like streaming services or whatever, I don't think it says Part 1 anymore.
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
So I think we can do it in small ways. But so what if we called it a big, bold journey? What if you just drop beautiful? Do you think you're losing the beauty audience?
I think 50% of the people at home are like, but is it beautiful? Is this a big, ugly journey?
I also think a story about a pair of strangers and the unimaginable journey that ties them together, starring Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell, being released into theaters in September, has a tough hill to climb already.
Well, we'll see.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it does seem like, this should work, but it's 2025. We don't know if this
I'm going to throw David Ellison some free game right now. David Ellison, who runs Skydance. If this Paramount thing goes through, day one, go in. Every title on Paramount Plus of Mission Impossible, change it from Mission Impossible, take away 3, take away Rogue Nation, just be like Mission Impossible : tall building.
Yes.
Mission Impossible : Kremlin. Mission Impossible : Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Mission Impossible : long hair.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, so here's the series, right? Can we do this?
Yeah. Okay, Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible.
It's fine. Knock list.
Or Mission Impossible. Whoa!
Okay. Mission Impossible 2 long hair / Mission Impossible 2 : John Woo.
Mission Impossible : John Woo is the best one. Yeah.
Mission Impossible 3, I would just go Rabbit's Foot or Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That's right.
4 is Brad Bird. That's Burj Khalifa.
Yeah, that's big building.
Big building. 5 is Ghost Pro, right?
No, Ghost Pro is big building.
Ghost Pro is big building. 5 is Rogue Nation.
Rogue Nation is pretty perfect.
That's good. Is that Kremlin?
By Kremlin.
Okay.
Yeah, Kremlin boom. No.
Kremlin boom.
It's
a touchy subject right now.
Well, it would be very popular in some parts of the world.
And then I think Fallout's good, but you could do bathroom. Mission Impossible bathroom fight.
Mission Impossible arm cock. Nope, that doesn't sound good. Let me rephrase. But isn't that what they call him? He was like cocking his arms? Right? Mission Impossible arm cock sells itself, but not to everyone.
Yeah.
It is not a 4-quadrant title. I'll give you that.
And then I don't really know how to save the titles of Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning.
Mission Impossible Upside Down Train. Mission Impossible : Haley Atwell.
Yeah. And then Mission Impossible Internet.
Mission Impossible, well.
Anyway, that's a great, I'm glad we talked that out. I had a question for you. You asked me about being a Hollywood fixer. I have a question of you as a once and future showrunner.
Thanks.
And guy working in Hollywood.
Guy.
Over the weekend, this is going to sound weirder than it is. I was watching Sex and the City with a couple of teens.
Let's just take a second.
We were watching the show, and it was my wife and her friend and her daughters, and Sex and the City was on. We were watching it on Netflix.
It wasn't your dear friend's daughter saying, Uncle Chris, share us something that matters to you from your life. And you're like, there's only one project that combines my 2 favorite things, sex and cities. Yeah.
This is my favorite arc of Sex and the City, I think, is the burger arc. Ron Livingston.
The great Ron Livingston.
I feel like, you and me really felt seen in those run of episodes.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's a scene in one of those episodes where Carrie and Samantha are walking down the street in New York City.
This is not where I thought today was going.
And in the background, you would think that Stanley Kubrick was directing Spartacus. That's how many people are behind them, like walking up the street.
Right.
And I forgot to say what we were talking about this episode, but I guess people will see it in the title.
No, you said you had a really good Elvis Costello reference.
Yeah, but I didn't actually say the shows that we were talking about.
Department
today.
Q.
Yeah. Anyway, Sex and the City. There's like 100 people walking behind Carrie and Samantha on the street, and I was like, why don't we do that anymore? Is it too expensive? Did extras get more expensive?
Right.
Why don't city street scenes or TV shows feel populated anymore?
Well, also, I mean, start a little bit further. Like they filmed the show in New York.
In the great city of New York. Yeah.
I mean, that's rarer and rarer these days. You don't enjoy the sight of just summertime crowds taking the air in Budapest. Well, John Corbett's like, the city has surely changed, and Carrie's like, yeah.
No, they shoot. I think they shoot, and just like that in New York. John Corbett's character is currently living in rural Virginia, though.
Oh,
you don't know that?
Oh, has he been red-pilled?
I can talk to you about it in just like that. We're on season 3, dog.
And you say we, you mean you're part of the hive. You watch the show.
Yeah. Current watch rotation right now.
You just watch everything.
And just like that, 100-foot wave, Top Chef, sticking with it. Adults, Department Q, which we're going to talk about today. And I think that's broadly it.
That's a lot.
I did a little bit of a hacks check-in.
Did you?
She got renewed for season 5. Anyway, what's up with extras?
Well, I mean, it wins Emmys, of course. Yeah, of course it got renewed. I cannot speak specifically to why there are fewer extras, having never had the privilege of filming in a big city. Shout out Albuquerque.
Yeah.
But generally, everything is more expensive and budgets are tighter. And I think it's probably less about paying extras as it is about shutting down parts of a major thoroughfare and corralling the extras or the space.
Do you always have to be like you're an extra to somebody?
Or can you just do a little found footage?
Yeah. Can you just have Carrie Bradshaw and Samantha walking up the street and everybody who's in the background is just like, I guess they're filming something today?
It's a great question. I have no idea.
I wonder if it was just better in the 90s like that. You were just like, yeah, I guess I'm on Sex and the City. Who cares?
Yeah, you didn't have to. You didn't have to get consent in
but
the,
I guess
in the 90s?
You would
is that
need
what you're
people
going
to
for?
be background actors and not be like, yo!
I like the way you just talked over that. I was trying to just.
Wait, what did you say?
I was saying, yeah, it was cooler in the 90s without consent. And you just kept going.
That's not what I was saying.
I just wanted to give you a chance to refute the accusations from a second ago.
I refute it.
Did you ever do that? I mean, we lived in New York then. Did you ever see the little
I mean, they were shooting Law and
up?
Order constantly.
Yeah,
I'm probably in a background.
Were you ever like, Briscoe? No?
I was more of an Olivia guy.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, which we will talk about because today on the
we are
pod,
going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about Department Q, not the entirety of it. Andy and I are going to have a broad conversation about Scott Frank's new show on Netflix that came out about a week and a half ago, I think, at this point, and we both adore. But we're not done yet.
Just a week ago. Time moves weird.
It's 9 episodes, and those episodes are somewhat long.
Quite long.
Full hours. So we're going to talk about that, and then we are going to do a little dazzling 2-man TV detective draft. So we're going to be talking about some of our favorite detectives in TV history. We can get into that. Did you have anything else? Oh, I had one other thing, but it was really like, I don't know if it would be of deep interest to our listeners.
I guess the only other thing I had was about what you were just saying. Like, did you notice the lack of vibrant cityscapes in your entertainment before you saw how good we used to have it? Like, is it something that you have been tracking before you watched Sex and the City and felt like it was...
constantly.
You do notice that?
Yeah, because like that's one of the things that I think I respond to so deeply about like, I don't know, 70s movies is like the feeling that the movies are actually happening and that there's life going on in the background and it gives like the foreground so much more vitality.
I think what I would say to that is one of the... it's almost impossible to imagine that there are under-heralded aspects of Andor. But I think one thing that maybe goes slightly unremarked upon
is that they shot in New York City.
They shot everything on the same streets with you in the background going, Olivia! It's cool. That you can see the money spent in a lot of different ways, but maybe the sneaky best way to see how much money they spent on the show is the crowd scenes. And is like, the Imperial Senate, we are shooting in Valencia and we are filling the frame to the best of our ability, because they're shooting at scale, you're showing the building, they have to fill it. And some of that is filled in digitally, of course, but that's an expense too. But even just the degree to which when Cassian and Bix go to their bodega, that's at the Barbican in London. Like they left the studio and they went to a place and they dressed it.
Oh, I was going to say there are no bodegas at the Barbican.
Well, they don't call them that. They call them druggists and takeaways, but you can get.
Can you have a druggist cat?
Yes. Yeah, you can. Anyway, just the sense that even when we were watching the studio recently, I was thinking about this.
This is a good example.
They filmed, despite what you may have believed, they did film on location at the casino in Vegas, and they filmed, as Sean and Amanda confirmed for us, they filmed the CinemaCon scenes in the theater where they do the CinemaCon stuff. I'm doing this from memory. I was not prepared to talk about this, but I do feel like when they shot the reverse of Seth Rogen's Matt on stage, you could see the way, like all trained camera professional people, they cheated the crowd.
Yeah, they did the Rocky crowd where some of it's dark.
Some of it's dark. There's a couple people in the front.
Yeah.
No shame in that. I mean, it's just being efficient. But you kind of notice that. You do notice the absence if you're looking for it, which is why I think it is important when we see abundance, shout out Ezra Klein, like we do in Andor, we should note it. Because it is rare.
Did you ever do a full Sex and the City watch?
No.
Did you watch any of it?
Barely.
How did you do that? How did you get through your life doing that?
Unlike you, I hate both those topics.
Sex and cities?
How did I avoid it? I don't know. I can't believe you're throwing this back on me. I thought we had a pact that together we could be like, television shows from 1999 to 2009. Sorry, we were at bars.
Yeah, but then I started, various women were like, let's watch this show.
Oh, see, women just wanted to chat with me. They wanted me to explain indie rock to them. And I was happy to oblige. Like Top 100 Elvis Costello, go. I could do it because I think that's what the women wanted.
Yeah. Okay.
Was I wrong?
Maybe one of these days we should do an SATC rewatch.
Okay. Do you think
first watch for you?
Do you? I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It was often, it was on in the apartment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
there were just random people's teenage daughters watching it. Like, you guys good? Can I go out?
So you don't know the burger plot?
I can hum a few bars.
Okay.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was just nodding through it. What did he like, indie rock?
No, he was he was a writer as well.
Yeah.
And he wrote a 400-page novel called, I think, Hurricane Pandora.
Hell yeah.
That and Carrie and him are dating for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And
can't believe it didn't last.
They have a misfiring sex life.
Oh.
Like they're really like very full on banter.
Yeah.
Doing bits.
Yeah.
But like their sex life is fucked up, and then they kind of get it together on that end. But he's starting to show signs of being like a little bit of like a competitive asshole.
Oh.
He gives her his book. Ugh. She reads it, and her thing is to like make a joke about something he got wrong in the book. And he gets real fucking mad.
Hell yeah.
And then it just spirals out of control from there.
Is he your favorite of her suitors over the course of the run?
Well, I found him, I never met a guy like Mr. Big. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know dudes like that. Aiden, I get it. Mm-hmm. Like the furniture, the bar.
Northern Virginia.
Sure. But it was never like, I don't like Burger for her, but I'm like, I get Burger. Baryshnikov, I thought was ridiculous.
Oh, I was a Baryshnikov boy.
Sure you were.
I was like internationally classy, sweep me
you
away.
Take a girl of France and abandon her? It's just ridiculous.
Well, I was with you to the abandoned part.
Yeah.
I did watch the finale, so I was familiar with his game at the end, yeah.
Let's talk about Department Q. This came out, like we said, last week on Netflix, 9 episodes. It's an adaptation of a Danish Scandi noir series
that I'm not familiar with.
That I'm not familiar with either. But I do
Juicy.
dip into some pretty weird, random Netflix Scandi noir stuff. Nordic noir.
This seems like a pretty big series.
Yeah.
Jussi Adler-Olsen is the author.
I don't know how, so I'm not familiar with how much Scott Frank and Tani Lakani, who did co-created the series, and how much they're borrowing from that plot-wise. It's set in Edinburgh. It's all episodes were co-written by Frank, and 6 of the 9 episodes were directed by Frank. Obviously, Scott's been on this pod a couple of times. He's been here to talk about Godless. I believe we talked to him about Queen's Gambit and Monsieur Spade, right?
We love having Scott on.
Yeah.
He's been on for
hopefully
all
he'll come back on to talk about Department Q.
Didn't we have him on to talk about his novel Shaker, too? Hasn't he been on a few times?
Gosh, or did we?
Well, it was a good book.
Yeah, I liked it too.
We love Scott.
This stars Matthew Good as Carl Mork, an emotionally scarred detective, is how I believe it's described. But I completely agree with that description.
Good job, Wikipedia. You nailed it.
I was like, did I write that? I don't think so.
No.
So I just didn't.
I thought we both had Wikipedia open. And I was like, why is he?
I know who this character is, though. Like, I've watched these episodes, so
Okay.
I'm sorry for leaning on the internet there. I'll just close my computer. How about that?
That's fine.
No.
Gemini, help Chris with this.
No, not only is he emotionally scarred, he's physically scarred.
Why, Chris? Say it.
Because early in the series, he is a victim of an in the line of duty shooting.
Mhm.
He is your typical emotionally complicated, aggressive, abrasive, antisocial detective.
Brilliant.
And brilliant
Yeah.
detective. And we're going to be talking a lot about some of the archetypes and types of detectives
Mhm.
that we come across on television. So the series starts out, we have this crime committed against Mork, and then we also have a parallel plot about a prosecutor who is trying a case against of domestic violence and murder against this prosecutor is named Merritt Lingard. She's played by Chloe Perry.
Peary.
Peary.
And the person she's prosecuting was the security guard in episode 3 of Adolescence.
No shit.
I was like, that guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
There's
Great
a lot
actor.
of that guys in this show. And yada yada. We find out that by the end of the first episode, here's a spoiler for the first episode.
Oh, wait. First, he Mork's back at work.
Yeah.
He's seeing a therapist played
Yes.
by
Kelly MacDonald.
by the elite Kelly MacDonald.
Yeah.
He doesn't play well with others, and there's a windfall in the department where the government of Edinburgh is like, we will give you money to the great Scottish actress Kate Dickie, who we've seen in
Dickie.
Game of Thrones, seen her in 100 things.
Yeah.
She's chief of police. We're going to give you money to start a new cold case unit.
Yes, because
And-
we know that these things like kick up a lot of like publicity and
Yeah.
it's good for the department.
So she puts Carl in charge of the unit, stashes him in the sub basement, like literally Department Q, where they've run out of numbers to name the offices. It's a former bathroom or changing room. And the windfall goes to her and the upstairs cops
Yes.
with new laptops and things.
Yeah.
And then we're
And
like,
some
when are
flat
these
screen
when are
TVs.
these two plot? And we're going to spoil the pilot at least, right? So like, when are these two stories going to meet? When is Carl Mork going to run into this hard charging investigator
Yeah.
who still has a Danish
They
name?
even actually do a great job like sprinkling in a couple of breadcrumbs that they will get an advocate if they want. Like they'll have a lawyer attached to the department
Yes,
Q.
and you're like, aha, that's going to be Merritt. Guess what? It's not.
Nope.
Because his first cold case is Merritt.
The whole episode that all the stuff that
What?
we've been seeing from Merritt is actually taking place 4 years in the past. And the episode 1 ends with Carl picking Merritt as the first. Well, actually, Carl's assistant Akram picking Merritt
Yeah.
as the first case
So
that they're
good.
going to do. It's an awesome twist, and it's like you're just so in on the conceit of the show. Tell me what you think of the show so far.
I love this
Yeah.
show. I'm so excited to talk about this
Yeah.
show. It makes me so happy. I don't know if anything makes me happier than good TV done well.
Yeah.
Like, this is if you are a listener who is like, thank you for the Pitt, thank you for making me feel things again, television box, in a way that is familiar but still engaging and surprising,
Mhm.
I think this is your next show. Because it is so wonderful to hear that familiar melody of like, oh, this guy's kind of an asshole, but he's a genius. Oh, he's putting the band together of a collection of misfit toys who are going to become a found family. And the way that, and then when you have an elite screenwriter like Scott Frank doing this, you feel that you're still on your toes. But when you feel yourself being led through familiar halls, it feels thrilling.
Yes.
So, for example, you mentioned Akram, who's played by Alexei Manvalov, who's a phenomenal actor who's on Chernobyl, a Swedish actor. He's playing Akram, who is a Syrian refugee or immigrant anyway. We don't fully know why he came to Edinburgh.
Oh, he came
with
because his wife got hired as a doctor.
As a
in
doctor,
Scotland.
right.
They
But
needed doctors.
But he seems like he also was ready to leave Syria for
Yeah.
a number of reasons. When we meet him through the point of view of what's her name?
Rose.
Of Rose, played by Leah Byrne, who is a awesome-haired police cadet in
A lot
the
of
office.
hairstyles in this show.
Good choices, though.
Yeah.
Visually really compelling. She's letting him sit there because he wants an interview. He wants an opportunity to pitch himself to Moira, played by Kate Dickie, the head of the department. His wife's making Syrian sweets for her. We see him, we clock him, he's waiting. Eventually, of course, he ends up in, being asked to like help Carl mop the floor, help Carl organize the files.
Yeah.
But Chris, guess what? Akram's a goated detective himself in his little suits and he knows just what to do.
Yeah, man.
And I'm like, I love this guy.
Yeah, Sherlock and Watson. We got these guys. Yeah.
Guess what? All you guys sitting around still being like, boo-hoo, I miss Dr. King. May I introduce you to Akram and Rose, my new best friends? It feels awesome to be in a show like this with a larger world, and it's Scottish. We haven't spent a lot of time in Scotland on TV recently, here in America anyway. With the big imposing stone buildings and heavy skies, and just like, come on now, sense of humor and cut the shit attitudes. Matthew Good playing Carl.
Yeah.
May I suggest Matthew Best? I think I've always thought he's very talented.
Yes. But has always played Dapper Dan's.
And Pratt's.
Yeah. And this is like, he's got scraggly beard.
Great wool sweaters.
He's got a lot of baggage. He's got a frustrated stepson who still lives with him, playing techno and at all hours of the night. He's got a lovely roommate, because this is Scotland, so like you are like a middle-aged man with a roommate and a son living with you. And he's got a lot of problems. And he's got his during the shooting, his best friend and partner is left paralyzed. So his partner's in the hospital. His the younger officer who was on the scene is killed. And we are starting to see, as the episodes go on, that maybe perhaps like there's some connective tissue between Merritt's disappearance and Mork's shooting and the conspiracy, and maybe some problems within the department. I wanted to ask you this. I was thinking about something that you said, maybe it was last episode or the episode before. I can't remember what we were talking about.
I did just want to say, I think this is important. Matthew Good is playing Carl as an Englishman who's living in Scotland.
Yes.
And everybody dunks on him constantly.
Yes.
And as someone who, in my first time ever in Scotland, I was 15 and I was doing like a school exchange thing, and there was like a party at one of the host family's house, and there was a huge ruckus because everyone was in one room watching television. And I was like, what is this noise? Why is everyone so excited?
Are you guys watching Sex in the City?
And they were like, have you heard about this show? And they were like, it's the Euros. It's a football, it would have been major tournament. And I was like, oh, that's exciting. It's exciting. You guys are really into it. They're like, yeah, this is everything here. I was like, oh, is Scotland playing? And they're like, no, we didn't qualify. And I'm like, who are you cheering for? And they said, whoever's playing England. Yeah. So I love those details in the show. Okay, go on.
He had married into Scotland is what he says. We often talk about the idea of, especially cop shows, detective shows, crime shows, as being Trojan horses for other ideas that the creator is trying to smuggle in. So I'm trying to think of a good example of recent TV that we might want to say. Even Monsieur Spade, which is Scott's previous work that was on AMC. It was about Sam Spade, the Dashiell Hammett character, living his late middle-aged life in France and trying to have a quiet life, but finding himself embroiled in post-World War II or post-Algerian Civil War conflict. All the stuff that was still bubbling up in France in the 60s, I believe it is. And it's really about getting older and getting sick, and
just like this podcast.
And reckoning with your mortality and everything else, and reckoning with like your lack of legacy, lack of roots, lack of family, whatever it is. So we often spend time celebrating that. There are things in Department Q that I think are being smuggled in one way or another, but I also think that it's just a really good horse. And that's kind of like, I want to celebrate that for a second.
I agree with you.
Sometimes we can be like, oh, the great thing is he gets all these ideas about identity and with just like detective heal thyself stuff. That's true. But this is like a perfectly crafted machine in some ways. And it's playing a lot of familiar sheet music. It's the Angry Detective. It's the who gave these guys their own department. It's cold cases.
He's bantering with his therapist.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's very familiar.
There are hallmarks of like 25 years of prestige television that are leading into this, but each one is done expertly. Each one is done with humor. Each one is done with pathos. Each one is done with that little smidge of humanity or that little smidge of like creativity or individual expression, like even down to the hairstyles of some of the people working there, the conception of the offices in the Edinburgh Police Department, the conception of people's homes, like it's just so well realized that I think it just is pure pleasure for me.
It is the same for me as well. I'm loving watching the show. And I do think it's a testament to Scott's involvement. And as you said at the beginning, he developed it with Chandni Lakhani. There's an element of collaboration at play here without a doubt. But every time we talk to Scott, and hopefully we'll get to do it again, he kind of reiterates some of his core career learnings and belief, which is, remember, he was the go-to fix-it guy for 2 decades.
Yeah.
His names are on some major scripts.
Of course.
But also they're not on even, his name is absent from even bigger movies that he worked on. He was the guy that you called and he couldn't say no to a challenge. And that was very, very lucrative and I think satisfying in ways and sometimes frustrating in others. And, he made the decision a few years ago to stop doing rewrite work and to just pursue the things that he wants to do. And despite the fact that he now has his own voice and his own vehicles, his innate ability to fix things and to keep things moving and to keep trains humming and to allow projects to be the best version of themselves, that's just intrinsic to who he is. It's not necessarily the nature of the job. So the running thread between Godless and Queen's Gambit and Monsieur Spade and this isn't any kind of like hobby horse of themes or politics.
Or worldview, yeah.
And I also don't think it's any kind of particular like bravura pirouetting of language,
Yeah, there isn't really a signature Scott Frank dialogue style that I can think of. I mean, obviously Queen's Gambit is largely weirdly in some ways like a physical piece, than as much as it is a piece of dialogue.
And I think, we talked to him about it. I think like Scott and Tony Gilroy are friends. They're friendly competitors in the screenwriting space. Tony has a Tony Gilroy speech, and it's not just a Luthen thing. It's like Michael Clayton explaining how the world works. I mean, like that is what he does. And he does the little things well so that he clears the deck to deliver the hammer.
Yes.
Scott is
He puts his characters in positions where Partagaz or somebody can give like a big,
He narrows the focus to these one-on-one like basketball games where someone is going to dunk. What's interesting, I think, about tracking Scott's career, especially on the small screen now, is that where he does show off, and again, tastefully within the framework of something, is more as a director. Queen's Gambit, you said it was more of a physical piece. I mean, it was very beautiful and it was hallucinatory at times, and kind of surreal in the way it presented the chess pieces on the ceiling or whatever. One of the striking things about Department Q to me was how absolutely lush and beautiful the shots can be, the composed shots, the greens in the police station, which are then mirrored with the subterranean Department Q office where you can see the feet walking above. There's a just casual, you never go back there shot, at least as far as I know, in episode 2, where Mork is starting to warm up the cold case and he goes to talk to the cop who is the lead investigator of the disappearance. And Fergus has now quit the force and gotten sober and is working out of a church. And the church is lit as if Jesus Christ himself was a gaffer. Like it is a kaleidoscopic rainbow just bleeding through this immaculate ceiling. And it's just for an interrogation scene.
Sure, but I think that
it's not showy, it's beautiful.
Every one of those choices is really purposeful. Like even in the flashback stuff that we wind up getting of Merritt's life over the course of the first few episodes, her choice to live in a specific kind of house, in a specific kind of setup, and even the way that the detectives are piecing together like her movements, her purchases, her affairs, her whatever, is like, it gives me the sensation of reading great detective fiction where you are, whether or not you've figured things out or not is not the point. It's about the experience you have reading or watching someone do the same. So like even if you as a seasoned television watcher start to get suspicious about a certain character on Department Q or whatever you're watching and you're like, I don't like the looks of this guy, or I don't, it seems like they've brought him back a few too many times and accentuated his goodness. I'm worried about that or whatever. Like, I think that the point more is to let the world rain down on you and to use Scottish weather, like to wash over you and just enjoy it moment by moment, twist by twist, interaction by interaction.
What were the loans called during COVID? Like the PPP loans that people got? So I want to create something that maybe we can pull into use when we're talking about shows like this or The Pitt, which is the pure pleasure principle. Like how many hours or like how many, not even hours, how many screen minutes elapse before you're just locked in? And, for me, it's like with this show, the twist at the end of the pilot was thrilling. But there's a moment relatively early on when Carl brings 2 cans of lager to the hospital to visit with
Hardy.
Hardy, is
Yeah.
played by Jamie Sives. This is another thing it has in common with Andor, just the bench of actors in the UK. 2 cans of lager, and they're sharing a can of lager and just talking about work.
Mhm.
I'm like, they could say anything, and I would be thrilled to be here.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to mention was I think we knocked Friends and Neighbors a little bit last week for cramming, or I did, cramming 3 seasons worth of plot into the first
Yes.
season, and somehow like knowing that it was going to be a going show and that they had already started shooting season 2
Yep.
and yada yada. Like I was like, why are you rushing this character being framed for murder?
Yep.
When really like this should be the character piece of like he's getting into the criminal world but still trying to have one foot in the suburban rich milieu that he comes from. And you can kind of watch this show be constructed expertly to be like, it could go on. You know what I mean? Like this could be.
We're putting the team together.
Oh yeah. And like they could do this in any way that they wanted. Like they've done 9 episodes. They could come back and do a Christmas special. They could come back and do a 3-episode season a la Sherlock on BBC. You know, like this is so malleable, and you could keep bringing in detectives and moving detectives out, and you know, Carl could keep rising and falling within the department or whatever. But it's very, 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 very good bones here.
Yeah, like I find myself. I'm glad you mentioned that in terms of like what speed is the mystery moving along at, and this is the highest compliment as someone who loves the genre I think can give this show. I've watched almost half, so I'm 4 episodes out of the 9. I'm not even speculating. Like I'm okay. I'm in a wonderful state of anticipation and ignorance. I'm not trying to guess it. I'm not trying to solve at it. I'm not in a hurry for anything to happen. I mean, I think Merritt's in a hurry because she spent the last 4 years inside of, I want to say, a submarine tube of some kind.
Doesn't seem good.
Doesn't seem good. I think that if she had been kidnapped after Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning had come out, she probably would have known a little bit more about torpedo tubes and how to manipulate herself through them, as well as, you know, all it takes is the love of a good woman to get you back from the bends.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been fine.
I don't want to comment too deeply on where Merritt is.
No, exactly. But she's not in the world.
No.
The bench of actors, I think we mentioned a little bit. The great Shirley Henderson from literally everything, from Trainspotting to Topsy Turvy to she was Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter. She's always excellent. She's playing a curious curious caretaker. Did you recognize Mark Bonar from?
Of course I did, man.
From Catastrophe.
Yeah, and from from everything really. Yeah.
He definitely. His marching orders were, "You're a suspicious prick."
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of leading the horse there. I think where do you rank and how do you rate Carl Mork on the scale of, and maybe this is a good segue into what we're going to be talking about, on the scale of difficult geniuses? Because I think Good is honestly a revelation in this part, and even though we don't have the full picture of why he is the way he is, I think I just buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably doesn't want to live where he's living, doesn't want to be in the situation he's in personally with like a teenage stepson living with him while his wife is left.
That, by the way, make you rethink your attitude towards wards?
Well, I mean, the thing is the clock is ticking on Jasper. You know, it's like he's 17, and the second he can be sent to wherever he's going to be. Like,
I know, but I think when you used to talk about how you weren't going to have kids, but you would maybe adopt a sports prodigy at the age of like 12, 13, or 14, I feel like in your mind, it's kind of like a Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson thing. Like, your parents died in the circus. Like, come live with me, kid.
Sure.
I'll show you the nightlife.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not really adjusting your sensibilities towards the modern era where you could be wearing like a monster mask, playing Call of Duty, listening to Rammstein, and have porn playing on a laptop.
Me or the kid?
Well, I'm saying he would interrupt. He would interrupt your Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
That's what I'm saying. That would kind of really harsh your mellow if you had another kid there being like
Spider-Man meme.
Mr. Ryan. Is that what he call you? No, what would he call you? Paul? We never talked about this.
Coach.
No notes. Just perfect. It was perfect.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of our favorite detectives? Do you want to keep talking about Department Q?
No, what I really want to do is end our podcast and watch episode 5 of Department Q because I love it.
Isn't that the best thing? Is like, my wife and I were like, the last 2 nights she's had plans. We went out last night, and both times we were like, what we really want to be doing is watching Department Q.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do our thing.
Okay. 2-man drafts historically are not the most entertaining things in the world, but I had fun last time. I think we did presidents.
We did SNL
cast. Oh, SNL like fantasy draft, right?
Mm.
So obviously drafts happen a lot on the Bill Simmons show on The Big Picture. It's a Ringer pastime here, Ringer Fantasy Football. Everybody does drafts.
Mm-hmm.
We're just using this as a canvas from which to paint.
The sports leagues do them too.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
We will be drafting the Philadelphia 76ers with the 3rd pick.
Yeah, what do you think?
We'll be drafting.
Yeah.
If Chris Ryan had his way.
Okay, give me your Chris Ryan has his way, then also what's your prediction at the moment?
I think Trey Johnson is my Chris Ryan has his way.
Okay.
From Texas.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I don't know what I think Daryl's going to do. Ace?
I think it's Ace Bailey.
What if he's Rudy Gay?
What if he's what?
What if he's Rudy Gay?
That's not what I thought you said.
That's not.
I was like, I'm fine with it. I think that with a situation that our hapless team finds itself in, I just think you gotta swing. You gotta take the big swing.
Swing for the just draw an ace. That's what you're saying.
I think you have to try because I don't know what another kind of glue guy guard is going to get you.
Would you like to have the first pick? Because I think that there's so many detectives on TV that we've loved that we're not going to be like, oh, now my draft is ruined.
No, here's the thing. I just a couple ground rules I think for this. We're drafting our favorite detectives from television.
Yep. Are you necessarily picking based on their expertise or based on I'd love to get a beer with him
I think
or her?
In best case scenario, it's both. There are definitely some who should not be drinking beers or with us.
Yeah.
I would also like to say that this is an outrageously subjective experiment that we decided we would do last night. There are many, many out there. And I wonder, I don't know who you're going to draft, but my guess is that we might go through this picking 5 each and canonically the greatest detective of all time might remain.
I was going to ask if you would like to leave Poirot, Sherlock, Columbo, and Monk on Rushmore and make them non-draftable.
Huh. And when you say Sherlock, you mean the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock.
Yeah.
Not the Johnny Lee Miller Sherlock.
But that dude is he can hear Jimmy. You know what I mean? It's he's kind of on another level.
Oh, Jimmy of the Baskervilles? You know him?
He's like Tiger 99, you know?
I agree. Let's take them off the board.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. But I think that's a sign of how
I didn't watch a lot of Monk, but when I've read about what Monk could get into, I was like, Monk's a badass. Monk could read the first page of a detective novel, read the last page and be like, I knew it.
But doesn't it usually say who did it in the last? Oh, I see.
Yeah, but
I thought you meant he'd be
he would know on the first page.
I thought he was like Jimmy, like Johnny Carson's Karnak, where he reads the first page, second page, holds it up, and it's like the butler did it.
Well, that's
what's the trick?
It's me being like, he is emotionally scarred.
Citation needed.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, I'm good with that. So you want me to do the first pick?
I didn't say that, but okay.
Okay, well, there's strategy here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think I know who you're going to pick.
We're going to do 5 each.
Okay. I have to pick Special Agent Dale Cooper first.
I knew you were going to do that.
I know. It's kind of obvious, but I had to pick the main character of my favorite show of all time.
Was Dale a good cop? Dale a good investigator?
Here's the thing about Dale. Real straight shooter.
Uh-huh.
You know, he's a sensualist. He's not above a slice of cherry pie or dating a teenage Heather Graham in town if necessary. But what I like about Dale Cooper...
Does he solve that crime?
Well, multiple times. The first time he solves it is when Laura Palmer appears to him in a dream and whispers in her ear who killed her.
Oh, right. And
then he calls Sheriff Harry Truman, who also is a candidate for this list, honestly, and says, I know who did it. Yes, it can wait till morning. One of the most memorable ends to an episode ever. And then in the next episode says, I forgot. So he's non-tradish, but I do appreciate his openness to other ways of seeing.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of walking into ancient repositories of evil that he finds in the woods and getting stranded there for 25 years.
I just think he digresses a lot, not unlike a podcaster, but it's just he seems to be he gets distracted by quotidian things when it's like there's a who killed Laura Palmer is what we're all
Have
here
you
for.
listened to this podcast? I mean, all
Dude,
we
I
do
actually-
is get distracted.
I have a note in my doc that's
yeah.
like, ask Andy if he thinks I should start buying Red October gear now so that I have a surplus and can sell if economy crashes.
That's what your note says? I don't know.
Because Bryce homered when he was first came back
I
last
know,
night.
but did you see our guy Jesus Luzardo gave up 12 runs the other day?
Yeah, but like,
It happens.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cooper.
he's my favorite. I love him. And I also do, I think that as we've gotten to a place of like some of our favorite detectives, like Carl Mork, are as dark often as the criminals they're pursuing, Cooper, as a product of David Lynch's, very 50s soaked mind, like is intentionally an avatar of pure good in a world in which pure evil also exists. And I find that very sweet.
My number one pick
Mhm.
in the TV detective draft
Right.
is Frank Pembleton
I knew it. Yeah.
from Homicide: Life on
That's
the
the right
Street,
choice for
played
you.
by the late great Andre Braugher. Probably the first detective that I remember becoming mesmerized by as in my TV watching life in the 90s when Homicide debuted after the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
But especially in those first two seasons, Pembleton breaking Tim Bayless, his partner, the rookie Kyle Secor, played by Kyle Secor, and then kind of lone wolfing it out on the streets of Baltimore, having that incredible intuition, that incredible sense of style, that abrasive personality, but also the incredible intellect, and Three Men and Adina, the box interrogation episode.
Which we talked about last year when it hit streaming.
Yeah, one of the great episodes of television ever made. It's on Peacock, so you can, if you haven't gotten a chance to ever check out Homicide after a long time of being DVD only, it's available on streaming. And Brower gives one of the great TV performances ever as this character. So he's always been my favorite detective.
I think there's no better answer, maybe for this exercise, and certainly not for you. I don't want to give it away. Like, I definitely have on my maybe sheet another character from Homicide.
I do too. And that'll be an interesting
all right, so we'll sit
move. So go ahead. You go
We'll
second.
sit on that. I am going to stay within the David Simon universe, and I have to pick Bunk from The Wire.
Yeah.
I know that there's some debate
Fuck.
as to who the greater detective is on that show,
Lester or Bunk?
Lester or Bunk. Kind of depends. Depends how you like your jazz. Smooth or a little bit more discordant. Bebop, saying fuck a lot. I think Wendell Pierce's performance is the heart and soul of that show, and I think his world weariness, but his just absolutely dogged moral core is, you can't make the show without it. In a way, it's like you could point to that and say like, oh, that's the most TV part of it. That there are heroes here on a show that maybe its mission statement was it's not about heroes and villains. But I think that in a way he does reflect what David Simon found when he did his research in Baltimore, right? That there are decent people here.
Yeah.
And the scenes with him and Omar, the scenes when he just gets super, super drunk. I got to go with
They're
Bunk.
incredible. Lester is more of a office detective, is a research detective.
He's cerebral.
Is like, he finds things in the files.
Mhm.
When I believe, if I remember correctly, well, he gets brought into Jimmy's conspiracy in the 5th season, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And he gets mad.
Yeah.
I have not rewatched that season in a long time.
I will pick second,
Okay.
and I am going to pick Jane Tennyson, the detective
Oh, classic,
played by
classic.
Helen Mirren on the long-running, intermittently running BBC procedural Prime Suspect.
Mhm.
I would shout out, I was just watching a little bit of this last night to get ready. Season 6 is my favorite, Last Witness. And I think that's when Jane investigates the murder of a Bosnian refugee woman.
Okay.
And that one's incredible. Mirren essentially grows up playing this character
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I mean, she played her for, I think, 15 years or almost 20 years.
On and off. I
Yeah.
think that's right.
And so, when she first starts playing Jane Tennyson in the early 90s, a lot of it is about women breaking into this kind of work in England, the kind of institutional misogyny and discrimination that they faced, or that this character faced. And that's a big element of the early part of seasons, but she's also a very complicated character and is an amazing detective. So I always love watching these. Sometimes I watch them a little out of order, so I'm not exactly positive about like the chronology of the character sometimes.
Right.
But fantastic shit. Have you ever rocked Prime Suspect?
I watched one of the series decades ago, and I never got back to it. It's super dark. It's one of the most influential shows of all time, I would say.
Yeah.
What was radical about the show is now the normal television discourse. Okay, great pick. Kind of old school. I like it.
Yeah, number 3 for you?
I kind of got a zag here. My pick is Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Because
I love what you're thinking there.
Because he was a police detective in Philadelphia, and much of his behavior since his time in Philadelphia kind of mirrors the behavior of detectives in Philadelphia. What he showed us across those 2 series and what the creators gave for him to do were the most elite reverse detectiving you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
He knows the job backwards and forwards. He must have been one of the greatest detectives of all time in order to do everything that he did on the wrong side of the law in the series we watched it. Whether it was like he could find anyone at any time. He could make problems go away. Instead of uncovering the truth, he could bury the truth in a way. I also think that, and this is relevant too to the Department Q conversation, detectives and their mirror opposites are really only as good as the writers are smart and creative.
Yeah.
And thinking about the Herculean tasks that Mike had to do to keep the operations running across those 2 series is a credit to Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould in that writer's room, for like going really, really big with their ideas and then not shying away from it. There's a methodical nature to even the writing of the show that makes me think of a good investigation, where a clue, let's say in Breaking Bad, like there's a super lab underneath this laundry. It then becomes an investigation of how did it get there? And the way they chose to express that investigation is we watch Mike boots on the ground put it together.
Yes.
So it's a little bit unconventional, but I think that he's an exceptional detective.
So you never thought about putting Hank in there?
I thought about making the joke you just did, but I decided not to. No.
My third pick, also a little bit of a curveball.
I love curveballs.
Dr. Gregory House.
That's on my... Ooh, you mother...
Because it's not...
I thought I was going to blow your mind with that.
It's not always a criminal we're looking for. Sometimes the criminal is illness.
In retrospect, the way you were like, what if we agree to put Sherlock Holmes on Mount Rushmore? It was a little too smooth. You just stole my list.
Dr. Gregory House, played by Hugh Laurie in the great show House, really shaped my attitude towards medicine and wellness. As you know, a lot of the time.
Should we talk about that?
Sure.
There was just a time when, as young men in the city falling prey to passing bugs and colds, I'd be like, Chris, I'm a little under the weather.
Yeah, many of our major organs were touch and go throughout the early part of the 2000s.
And yet all of that,
based on
there was one sort
the amount of Rheingold that we were ingesting.
There's a unified theory of treatment.
Yeah.
I think people today talk about like having a team of doctors. I feel like you really took that onto yourself, and you were an army of one.
Yeah, I was doing differentials out here.
I am unwell.
Yeah.
In these ways, and you would say, "Did you throw a hot towel on?"
Yeah, you would go out until 3 a.m. the night before, and then the next day,
what are these bankers' hours?
And then the next day, you'd be back at the bar at 5:30 or whatever after we got out of our jobs, and you'd be looking a little green, a little gray, and I'd be like, you know what you got to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think you got lupus,
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I would be like, one of my favorite tricks from that period was I thought I had like hacked the system in the human body, where I'd be like, it's not, maybe you have a hangover or something, you take a little Advil, like it makes your headache go away. Like that's just normal. Everybody knows that. But I was like, nobody knows. Advil, cold and sinus makes you feel much better. And I'd be like, this is just between me and this Dwayne Reed. Nobody knows this. And then someone was like, that's speed, right? They'd be like, get the fuck, what? No, it's not. Anyway, that was before they made you go behind the counter to get it.
Yeah, House is an incredible show, honestly.
It's so good. It is one of the great detective shows of
and
our time.
Not unlike Department Q, where he has like his team,
Yeah.
Jennifer Morrison, Omar Epps, various others come through.
Olivia Wilde.
And they take on the most difficult, hard to
Cal
peg.
Penn, but he got done dirty.
Did he?
Well, remember he was on the show, and then he was like, "Now I will become the Obama White House's liaison for talking about liaisons or something," and they were like, "You're gonna die badly."
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They
I
X'd him out.
there was a lot of like violence inflicted on TV doctors.
Yeah, as long as you weren't the star.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anyway, yeah, like the way that he goes about
Mm.
doing these differentials, finding behaviors in the patients
Mhm.
that would lead to them getting meningitis because they like go into pools or whatever. Like that, I feel like that happened like 3 times. And he's also a gruff asshole addicted to painkillers for much of the show.
Great show. I feel
And he has
like
a Dr. Watson, Robert Shaw Leonard.
one of the things that we never talked enough about, at least on this podcast, we probably talked about it at Hi-Fi with John Dolan and Chuck Klosterman back in the day,
Mhm.
was just like the biggest problem with going to that Princeton medical clinic or whatever where House was running wild wasn't his gruff demeanor.
It was just a hospital, yeah.
It was that
Princeton urgent care.
or whatever.
Imagine you walked into urgent care and
He's
you're
just-
like, my wrist is clicking,
he's just
and the
looking
house
at you.
is like, you got lupus.
No,
I want to do that.
The problem, it's not too late for you to switch careers.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an Xer up on Eagle Rock Boulevard that could really use the extra manpower. The glass walls, which
Yeah.
looked awesome on TV, but like
Yeah.
that is the single worst thing I could ever imagine in a hospital. Like that is not.
Also, because it was on network TV, I feel like House had a great save rate. He was like Dennis Eckersley. Like, it was like he rarely lost a guy,
No, he did, but you had to make a meal out of it. Like
Yeah.
you had to like
Every
really
once in a
earn it.
while, I know he would lose somebody, but like for the most part, it was like, this guy's got 5 minutes to live, and House would be like, that's because he ate berries in Brazil last month.
Keep going.
Yeah, and then, like he's having an allergic reaction.
But then that patient would be cleared.
Yes.
That was the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Like there weren't very many lingering
No,
cases.
it was an episodic thing.
Did you know they used called House because of Holmes?
I figured
Did you figure that out?
just when you said it.
Yeah. Had you not realized that before? Are you serious?
No.
That's awesome. Can we clip this?
No,
So you thought
I
you
thought it was
like
called Dr. Gregory House. I didn't think about it as like, yes.
do you know a lot of people whose last I guess Eddie House.
Eddie House?
You thought he was named after the great Eddie House. There was House Party, but that was the first name.
What's your next pick? 4th pick.
You want to move on from not knowing that?
I
get
feel
it.
embarrassed.
I think it's great. I think we all have our blind spots. Okay, I have to pick Maddie and David from Moonlighting. Did you say Rockford is on the Mount Rushmore?
No, I didn't. I said
God
Monk,
damn it.
Sherlock, Poirot, and
I'm walking it back.
Monk,
walking it back.
Sherlock, Poirot, and Columbo.
Forget it. I
Rockford
love you,
Files?
Maddie and David, but I got to say Jim Rockford from the Rockford Files.
You know what? I've never watched an episode of the Rockford Files.
Well, so it's not the easiest watch these days. I have tried to go back to it, and it has been streaming. I don't know if it's streaming currently. I think it's on Roku channel or something. It is dated, but the core conceit of it, which is the great James Garner plays a detective who lives by the beach and answers his phone and then like has mysteries to solve,
Mhm.
is so embedded in my being as like what I want there to be on television, and it's been so hard to get back to that. I think the excitement of Poker Face, a show which returned after 3 years and we have just not even engaged with
Yeah.
due to like just there's been a lot. The most appealing thing about that show to me was Ryan Johnson saying, "No, we're bringing that back." I feel like in the same way that Jane Tennison from Prime Suspect is hugely, hugely influential and not often talked about, I think Rockford is hugely, hugely influential in people's imagination and conversation about what they want,
Mhm.
but it's been perilously hard to recreate. Because ultimately, I mean, it's a clever mystery show, but it's also just an awesome hang with one of the most charismatic actors of the 20th century. And we were saying before about like, this is the detective you want to get a beer with.
Sure.
This is the detective who was on TV when our favorite writers like Elmore Leonard and Ross Thomas were writing their books, where people were a little bit shambly and dissolute and hanging out in bars and falling into stuff. And it's the closest that I think TV has gotten to recreating that.
Yeah.
All that said, try to watch it streaming. Your mileage may vary than mine. I'm championing the show. I keep wanting people to bring it back. There have been many attempts to bring it back, but it does feel dated. So I can't say I've solved it. Oh, and I can't say anyone has quite solved it, but the desire remains. Poker Face is close to it in spirit, but I think my ongoing issue with Poker Face is that it does seem like a museum exhibit honoring something like Rockford Files, because Poker Face is so highly stylized and then also so contained and like only, big deal about guest stars. Takes 2 or 3 years to be on the air. It's lacking one of the crucial components of Rockford, which is, yeah, man, that guy's on the beat.
Yeah.
That phone is ringing. Check in and check out. And in a post-Pitt universe, maybe we could get back to that
Really
kind of thing.
dapping the Pit up today.
The Pitt's awesome.
Yeah.
And the Pitt has not revolutionized, it's revitalized people's conversations about
It certainly has.
TV,
I mean,
think.
when the Pit comes back early next year,
Yeah.
and if I want to see if people are like, oh, is that show back already? Or if they're like, holy shit, yes, this is like how it felt when TV used to come on every 9 months.
And to be clear, like I think if I were going to give you my, scratch top 10 for the year right now, I think Adolescence would outrank the Pitt on my list.
Mhm.
But I think we need both.
I was going to say we should do a top 10 so far or a best of TV so far, but I almost feel like it's too obvious for us.
Yeah, at this moment. Although you have all these secret things you're watching.
I know secret things.
I feel bad about Maddie and David from Moonlighting.
I'm going to let you, they might still be on the board.
I felt okay swapping out Rockford because Rockford is the OG, and then those guys were in in the shadow of that show.
My next pick, my fourth pick, Veronica Mars.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
Veronica Mars was a ingenious idea to basically take the hard-boiled detective and make, usually it's him, but make that hard-boiled detective a teenage girl in a fictional, like, kind of La Jolla type town called Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
Her father is played by Kristen Bell. Her father is a private investigator in this town, and she applies some of his private investigator stylings to high school mysteries, and then also mysteries surrounding like the town itself, which is going through a lot of like haves and have-nots, gentrification, building up the beach, knocking down different things, like moving people out. And Veronica Mars ran for, I believe, 3 seasons in its first run, I think. Came back after much fanfare and much like fan kind of rallying to do a more or less crowd-funded movie, I think, which was, to me, not as successful, but then came back again for Veronica Mars as an adult now miniseries. It was excellent.
I never watched that.
It was really good. It was really good.
I'm really glad you put her on the list.
Yeah.
There's 2 threads, right? There's maybe there's 3 I'm noticing in what we're talking about. There's the TV cop detective, which you've given some great examples of. There's the I am as dark as the criminal. I am struggling. A lot of that came over from the British cop
Detective
shows.
Heal Thyself
Stuff. Yeah. And then there is the knockaround guys, and Rockford. I put Rockford on because the originator of it. I think Moonlighting is a great inheritor of that. I think Veronica Mars is a great inheritor of that. I feel like you would have expected me to have terriers on this list.
I really did.
Have Hank and Britt on here. I didn't, because I think that's in that category, and they only did 1 season of it. But that is the vibe that I'm always chasing and that I want. They were also near a beach like Rockford. Maybe that's the key to it.
Your final pick.
I feel like to balance out my list, I don't have any examples of what'd you say, Detective Heal Thyself? I don't have any of like the broken British types. And I thought about, Olivia Colman played Ellie on Broadchurch, great character.
She was actually pretty.
But she was decent, and it was more Tennant.
It was Tennant, yeah.
So she didn't make the cut for me. Sarah Lancashire on Happy Valley, I feel like deserves a spot on this list, but I have to look you in the eye and say I only watched the first season.
Yeah.
But Catherine Cowwood was an incredible character, probably worthy of inclusion. I'm gonna do the probably the second most obvious thing and put Elizabeth Moss's Robin Griffin on the list from Top of the Lake,
pick.
Because she is absolutely a blood relation descendant of Jane Tennyson. This is Elizabeth Moss basically making a fever dream detective miniseries for the brilliant director Jane Campion. It's set in New Zealand. Elizabeth Moss has a very passable accent, and it is one of the better examples of
that show ruled.
The show was so odd and so
that first season's incredible,
dark and gnarled and messed up, and one of the great things about detective fiction when you get really into it are detectives who are essentially investigating themselves, where like the crime scene is their own history, their own past. And I also just love the show, and I really liked the sequel too. It was Top of the Lake, China Girl, and Nicole Kidman was in it. Really excellent chance to be back in that world, although I don't think it was overall as successful. I really liked it because it was a brilliant filmmaker, Jane Campion, and at that particular time, I mean, Elizabeth Moss is still one of our best actresses, but she was really ascending in what she coming off of Mad Men, and she wanted to play an iconic archetypal character like a detective. I think that I love that. I hope, in the sense that like famous actors are like, I want to work with these directors. I want to have a chance to make every kind of movie. I want to do a sci-fi. I want to do a musical. I want to do a historical epic. I want to ride a horse once. Playing a detective should be in that list.
Yeah.
So Robin Griffin from Top of the Lake.
Okay, that's great. That's your last pick?
That's my last pick. There's a lot of good people on the board.
All right. I'm going to go a little bit of probably a zag from what you would think I would pick, or maybe we haven't even ever talked about this, but I'm going to go with Gil Grissom from CSI.
You're leaving Benson on the board.
I am. I love Olivia Benson. I love John Munch. I love Maddie and David. I have a lot of people I could have picked here, but I think I got into CSI when it got announced that Tarantino was working on it. He did an episode. So that would have been like 2005, I think.
Yeah.
CSI, especially like the early few seasons of CSI, when it was like obviously like a 30 million people an episode juggernaut, was fucked up. It was like really, because it was set in Vegas, and so every episode was like this like perverted, kind of sexually disturbing, really bizarre, and very like eerie show.
Yeah.
William Peterson plays Gil Grissom. I think I have a lot of like detective love for him anyway because of his performance as Will Graham in Manhunter. This show is just really cool in the first few seasons, and I like the idea of a detective. He's obviously a crime scene investigator working with inanimate objects and basically trying to piece together a crime by reading, like, the pieces on the floor, the photographs, the residues, the fluids. That's Grissom's way of investigating.
One thing I think that was a barrier for entry for me was that when CSI premiered starring William Peterson, I was woefully ignorant of William Peterson's past as maybe the weirdest leading man of the 80s.
Yeah, To Live and Die.
I had not seen To Live and Die in LA. I had not seen Manhunter. I have remedied that now. Those are two of the greatest films of the decade. And his performance in both, those performances are so extra and so weird, in a performance of a kind of masculinity that I don't know if it's good that we've left it in the past, but it is very striking.
It was a type of guy.
It was a type of guy that maybe still exists, but is rarely like the lead of movies anymore.
Yeah.
And so in retrospect, if we had been older, him being the lead of the latest CBS crime procedural would be like Shia LaBeouf leading the new Dick Wolf show this fall. Like it's just like, excuse me, after you've done that, you're going to do this?
Yeah.
And I feel like bringing that energy would have made me watch. But again, one of the unexplored, and there aren't that many left after 13 years, but I do think one of the great unexplored topics of this podcast is how you found the time. Because
this is, I haven't done CSI recently.
Then. Because now, one thing that's been very flattering for me, and it's helped me out a lot, is that we'll be like, how did you watch these other 16 shows? And then you will kindly say, oh, well, I don't have kids or whatever. So I'm like, oh, thank you. But my kids are older now. They look at like stuff on the iPads on their own. Like I could be watching stuff, but I felt like we both spent the 2000s mostly together.
Yeah, but like I think that first of all, CSI is an incredible rerun show. Like it's on 4 different channels. For
you are a keep it running guy,
and I am a big like throw the TV on when I get home and be like, oh, do we have like a SVU marathon going? Like I haven't done that as much recently because I think streaming really broke the ability to deal with commercials. So like if you have your cable channel on and every 3 minutes it's breaking away, like I've even like, when I'm waiting for some game to start on TNT, like I've watched some Chicago
Isles.
PD or Rizzoli Isles or whatever, and I'm not interested, but I just can't do the commercials.
I have to say, I think we did really well. I enjoyed this. I'm pretty shocked that we ended up not having anyone from either the Bochco-verse or the Wolf-verse, right? Like maybe it's because like a Bobby Simone or any of Dennis Franz's characters, or I think John Munch would have been a good one. He was he would have been my next pick because he played, Richard Belzer played this part across, I believe, 10 different series on 5 networks beginning in 1993. An incredible run for just an acerbic comedian.
I don't know that Munch was a great detective.
He was a good hang.
Yeah.
But he was never the lead guy.
He
But,
solved some shit on homicide.
Benson just has ended sexual violence in New York, right? She just fixed it.
Well, no, because that show keeps
Is there more?
being made. Yeah.
Is there more?
Yeah.
No one from NYPD
One day
Blue
I
for
want
you.
to do an entire SVU episode.
Why don't you?
Well, I have nobody to talk to about it.
That's okay. I'll just hang out with you.
Okay.
I'll sit on your side and just be like, good job.
Pepper me with questions.
Great point.
Let's recap our picks.
Okay. No one from NYPD Blue or Hill Street Blues?
Sipowicz, I gotta say, I was watching Caruso in a horror movie the other day, and he's just a really dynamic performer.
He makes a lot of choices. That's what acting is.
Go ahead. Recap your picks.
Special Agent Dale Cooper, FBI. Bunk from The Wire. Disgraced Philadelphia police detective Mike Ehrmantraut. Current whereabouts unknown. Jim Rockford calling in on the landline from the beach. And DSI or DI Robin Griffin.
From Top of the Lake.
From Top of the Lake.
I did Detective Frank Pembleton from Homicide: Life on the Street. Dr. Gregory House from House. Jane Tennyson from Prime Suspect.
Nice.
Veronica Mars from Veronica Mars. And Gil Grissom from CSI.
Man.
Not in that order.
These are good. These are pretty good squads.
Yeah.
They'd figure some stuff out. They'd get to the bottom of that big, beautiful bill. They would have read it.
Greenwald, great to see you, man. We're going to be back next week. Monday, we will chat a little bit. We have Alan Siegel coming in to talk about his Simpsons book.
Nice.
So we'll talk a little bit of Simpsons, but we're also going to be talking. Maybe we'll finish Q by then. Who knows?
I'm going to go watch it right now.
And then special guest next week. So we're excited for the second show next week, but we'll wait for it to happen before we count our eggs.
We don't usually get burned by that.
Thanks to John. Thanks to Kaya. Thanks to everybody for listening. We'll be back on Monday. Everybody have a safe weekend.
Great weekend, Brainskis.